Hello, this is Mike at GameFromScratch, and welcome to week 5 of This Week in Game Dev. A quick recap of what happened in the last week in the world of game development, be it new game engine releases, new tool updates, or game jams going on. This week I was actually expecting there to be nothing happening, just given the proximity to the holidays. People tend to slow down a little bit, and people don't generally do a lot of releases right before the holidays come up. And you'll probably find the next week or two it's going to be somewhat the same boat. Now, in the end, though, enough happened to make this at least worthwhile to listen to. So, a bit of a spoiler, there is reason to listen to this story, which is good, because otherwise it would just be, welcome to This Week in Game Dev, nothing happened, see you next week. And fortunately, we're going to have a little bit more than that, but not a ton, if I'm honest. So let's jump on in with what happened this week. We're going to do this in reverse chronological order, so actually I guess it would be straight chronological order, being that we're going to go back to a week ago and then move up towards basically yesterday's news because absolutely nothing happened today. So let's jump on in. All of these are going to be linked back to GameFromScratch, so if you want more detail on a particular story, just look in the comments down below and there will be a link available to you there. Now, this week in Game Dev, probably the biggest story is the Zenko game engine released version 1.5. Now, if you've never heard of Zenko, that's not shocking at all because Zenko didn't exist previously. It is actually a rebranding of the Paradox 3D game engine. Now, I actually took a detailed look at Paradox and actually did a 5 or 6 part tutorial series on using it. It's a nice C# based, full editor based engine. Nice, great tool. Very established 3D graphics company behind it, capable of some very high fidelity graphics. But if I'm honest, the name Paradox kind of sucked. First off, there's Paradox Interactive, which make a game engine that they use to make their games such as Heart of Iron, Heart of Iron 2, Heart of Iron 3. I don't believe there's a Heart of Iron 4 yet, but basically Paradox is a well-known company, and every time I ever do any news about Paradox, I always get about half a dozen comments saying, shoot, I thought this was for the Paradox, the other Paradox. So renaming to Zenko makes a lot of sense. Now, also, as part of this, they added increased animation support. A skeletal asset is now part of your scene. Profiler was built in. Debugging features and functionalities for the physics components, which sounds like a minor thing, but it was actually a glaring missing piece in Paradox 3D before the release. So that's nice to see added. So in a nutshell, Paradox 3D is now Zenko, and Zenko just released version 1.5. It's a cool engine. If you haven't checked it out yet, especially if you're a C# developer, you should go check that out. Neat stuff at work there. On the topic of new releases, actually no, this is a new tutorial release, is Unreal Engine just released a match 3 game/tutorial on their site. Now, normally a match 3 game isn't going to get me overwhelmingly excited, but this particular example has some pretty key things being demonstrated in there, including UMG graphics, or was that I don't remember what UMG stands for, but basically their UI system. Paper 2D support. Paper 2D is the 2D graphics library used in Unreal Engine. It's done in Blueprints and C++ code, so you can see an example regardless to which those 2 languages you work with. It shows ads, achievements, in-app purchases, leaderboards, and analytics. So you can download that. There's a release on Android and possibly the iOS store, so you can see the game in action. And you can also download it now on the Epic Game Launcher. Of course, you need to have Unreal installed to be able to get any use out of it. Also, if you go to GameFromScratch, again, link down below, you can jump in and actually see this live stream where they walk you through the game, the code, the meaning, how things work, etc. Now, another big small development, I guess we could say this week, is Mozilla released version 0.1 type thing, very early release here, of A-Frame. Now, A-Frame is designed to be a markup language for HTML5 for virtual reality. And this could be a huge thing. Or it could be VRML version 2.0, which was a gigantic dud. But VRML 2.0, or actually there was a VRML 2.0, so I guess this would technically be VRML 3.0, but that doesn't change the fact that VRML was a stinker. Basically, VRML was the idea of bringing 3D graphics to the web. It was a markup system that allowed you to create 3D scene graphs, basically, or 3D DOMs using markup. Neat idea. The whole idea of, let's bring Johnny Mnemonic or Neuromancer, Snow Crash, Matrix style 3D to the web. And this was at a time where, we were using the Glide APL, 3GFX graphics, and it was doggedly slow. It was terrible. But now we have Oculus VR about to ship. The Samsung Gear is already out there. HTC has theirs on the way in conjunction with Steam. So VR is coming in a big way. Plus, now our 3D graphics capabilities on our desktop are way, way better. Now, you could sit back and say, wait, well, what about WebGL? And this is sort of a complementary technology to WebGL. This is a markup layer on top of it. In reality, it probably is using WebGL behind the scenes. But you organize things with an HTML look. So here you can see they're creating a scene with a sky, a model, and an image, using straight HTML style markup. And then you can access it using traditional JavaScript DOM approach. This could be a big thing in the future. It could be a complete and utter dud. Who knows? But it is at least interesting enough to check out. And in the newest version of Mozilla, A-Frame is now enabled. So if you want to go along and play with it, head on over there and check it out. Now, another one, there's a pair of releases here for the libgdx. First off is libgdx 1.7.2 was released. Not a whole lot in the release, as you can see here in front of you. Some bug fixes and a couple of changes, etc. But it is a point release. However, it is corresponding with libgdx Jam, which just started on Friday. So it started on Friday. So at this point, it's actually going on for a very long time. So it's going until January 18th. So if you're interested and you want to work in libgdx and you're willing to share your game out, libgdx game is ongoing right now. There's some nice prizes available. Grand prize is a Mac Mini, and silver prize is an iPad, although technically an iPad may actually cost more than a Mac Mini. Cool opportunity out there. More details available at GameFromScratch if you're interested in getting started. So that one just got underway, so maybe of some interest to you. Finally, we've got Corona SDK, who recently were purchased by... Oh, I forget who bought them. Basically, they were just bought up by another company that made promotional material. They were in last week's news. But anyways, they've done, they added macOS support finally. It's been in experimental form forever, but now it's actually available in the core product. And in experimental form, they added tvOS support. So it's nice to see some movement there on the Corona side of things. It seems to be developing along quite nicely post-acquisition, so that's good to see. Did I put here? No, I didn't. Darn, I can't remember the name of the company that bought them. But definitely nice progress there on the Corona front. And then finally, not technically news, but I have now started a new series on a weekly basis where I'm going to be summing up all of the YouTube posts I did from the previous week and posting them on GameFromScratch. It's called It Came From YouTube, and as you can see, it's just a quick relink of the various topics I've covered here on YouTube. So if you're interested, but as you're a YouTube viewer, you're probably all already aware of this. It's just mostly for site people that may not be aware of what's actively being developed on YouTube. But you can see the last week's worth of YouTube posts linked in from GameFromScratch. So that's a new series I'll be running on a weekly basis. So if you just want a quick recap of what's gone on in the last week, first off, you can come here for the news, and you can go there for the YouTube channel. So hope you enjoyed that. Now, there's one other piece I didn't really cover. Should be of some interest to you, though, and I don't have a link immediately available. But Microsoft also, in conjunction with Unity, or Unity in conjunction with Microsoft, depends on how you want to define that one, they just launched a jam of sorts, using the word very, very, very loosely, where you can win up to 25 grand. The whole idea behind it is you have to either port or publish your game to the Windows Store, and you can win $25,000. So check with Unity on that one if you're interested, but obviously you may need to make your game available for Windows Store, and I do believe you have to use Visual Studio as well. But that's another quote-unquote game jam that's going on right now. But if you're a Unity developer, who doesn't want 25 grand? So that sounds good. That's it for this week in GameDev. Now, once again, tune in next week for the recap. Now, keep in mind that next week is basically going to encompass Christmas Day and then Christmas Eve and Boxing Day, which is pretty much going to mean probably nothing's going to happen. But hopefully I've proven wrong and there's some interesting things to talk about. Otherwise, have yourself a great holiday. See you later. Bye.